No need to train mindfulness or force awareness. Simply notice what's naturally aware without trying to control or interfere. When this understanding truly penetrates, it happens in a flash. Tears flow as the false sense of self collapses, revealing that nothing has ever truly had a self-nature. The mind returns to its original pure state, like clear space that remains unaffected by whatever moves through it. This natural awakening brings profound lightness and freedom, marking the end of suffering. It's not about gaining anything new, but recognizing what has always been here, our pure, clear, deathless nature. Today, I will share the teachings which are the essence concerning the path and fruits of Nirvana, specifically about our minds. The path and fruits of Nirvana already exist within our minds. We need not search for them anywhere else. In fact, the highest merit in the Buddha's teachings is also within our minds. The term merit here does not carry the same meaning that humans typically understand. The merit referred to by the teacher signifies that the mind has turned against the stream and recognized its original nature, realizing that the conditioned phenomena, which are mental formations, represent the nature of suffering. They are formless and devoid of ownership, existing as they do, completely free from conventions. When we manage to turn against the stream and perceive the truth in this way, the mind ceases to be ignorant and no longer clings, thereby returning to its pure element as it originally is, becoming the pure element of Nirvana, endowed with the knowledge of wisdom that is the light above the mind itself. The true mind is an element that is clear, shapeless, without size, not moving, not arising, not ceasing, neither dark nor bright, and unrelated to anything. There is no merit or demerit, good or evil, wholesome or unwholesome. When the mind releases itself from attachment to mental formations, it comes to realization, no longer ignorant or dependent on any conditioned phenomena. This is what is called the highest merit in the Buddha's teachings. Therefore, the Buddha taught us to recognize the nature that we already possess through various methods of transmission. If we begin with the lowest form of merit, we talk about letting go of external things because nothing belongs to us. This is the lowest level. As we ascend slightly, we recognize that this physical body is ours. However, this body is not owned by anyone. It is a natural element born to decay. The mind, in its ignorance, merely inhabits this form to learn and study the essence of the Dhamma. This reflects the second level of merit, which is a higher merit. Most ordinary individuals cannot comprehend this, but those who have abandoned identification with the body see that the body is not self. They perceive that it is merely a stream of thoughts created to attribute value. They may also reflect that the body is a natural element born to decay. When the mind releases, becomes disenchanted, and does not cling, regardless of the method, to say that they have relinquished identifying with the body signifies they are at the first level of noble being. This is a higher form of merit from letting go of external things. Ascend further, we reach the merit arising from the mind being awake and aware internally, realizing mental formations, which are the thoughts and emotions. It becomes clear that these thoughts and emotions continuously fluctuate, including the sounds the teacher expresses. These are merely the qualities of the mind, lacking any essence, without an owner, appearing and dissolving continuously. To clarify this, they manifest as fluctuations from the pure clarity and dissolve back to that inherent clarity. There is nothing, nothing at all. Anyone who can let go of this aspect is credited with the highest merit at this level. The highest step corresponds to the anagami state, which is very refined. The last merit is when we are fully awake internally and clearly see that what we are experiencing is its own knowledge, generating awareness that it is not us. Knowing this, it is the natural reality recognized by its own nature. The mind accepts this notion and the quality of Buddha-ness emerges, while ignorance collapses away from the mind. This results in a clear state characterized by tears of relief from all mental burdens. We realize that the mind has detached from humanity, and everything we once deemed significant as human has crumbled. All knowledge accumulated from being human has completely decayed, including the knowledge concerning the Dhamma. In that moment, the mind transforms back into its original pure element. It becomes independent and clear. But when the mind has broken free, we will know for ourselves that we have broken free and are liberated, because our hearts are completely filled with everything stated. The mind becomes its own at this stage. This is the ultimate letting go, the highest merit referred to as achieving the Arahant result. This is spoken about in terms of steps and positions, but when you truly reach it, there are no words to describe what it is. There is only the direct understanding, as stated. In practicing Dharma, it can be said that all notions of self that we once thought were important about being human have collapsed. What was once deemed significant as we are speaking is now clearly seen. It is not truly us who speak. It is something stirring on the outer edges, which manifests as sound. In reality, this should not even be called sound. It is merely the vibrations of nature, which exist in their state. If we liken our mind to a pure element, it is a mass of the purest energy, dense like the core of the sun, a mass that can be called a gravitational mass, the most refined mass with the greatest power. It is the origin of all that fluctuates and changes outside, a mass that changes in a coarse manner and cannot penetrate into this delicate essence. This outer layer, especially the crust of the earth, is extremely coarse and behaves in a crude, fluctuating manner. Deeper below, this is also coarse until we reach the core, which is the gravitational mass, the most refined, the most powerful, containing all energy. It is the origin of everything. This is a rough analogy. Our mind is that pure element, the originating element of all the elements we experience. The mind's formations or the vibrations of thought, emotions and sensations are merely the oscillating activities of the element of the mind, a pure substance resonating and changing according to its causes and conditions. This is the ultimate goal that the Buddha taught us, to return to recognize our pure element. We are not humans. Remember, the Buddha taught us so we could see that we are not human, and we never originated in this world. We never had a self. This sound is not a sound. It is a natural phenomenon, simply being as it is. While this is being spoken, there is no one speaking. There is no one owning this action. It is merely something that exists in its own vibrational state. The awareness happening right now is also an oscillation of nature, continuously functioning. This awareness, which can be likened to the substance of the mind, is not the mind. It is the substance. When the substance of the mind moves, it creates internal vibrations. Aside from those vibrations becoming thoughts and emotions, when they arise, they take on the form of conceptual language. This conceptual language assigns value to the notion that this is our body, this is ours, it is earth, water, fire, and air. It is material elements, villages, towns, districts, provinces, all assigned through conceptual language. Thus, as long as the minds of beings rely on these oscillations, these activities attribute value to the existence of a self, a body, and material elements, leading to perceptions of attachment and desire wanting things to be as they think. When they achieve their desires, they feel joy. When they do not, they feel suffering. All of this arises from the conditioned thoughts known as mental formations. The mind, composed of ignorance, has created these mental formations and holds onto them, leading it into the realm of conditioning, trapped in emotions, lost in a world of thought. When thinking about Naga, respecting, bowing to it, the mind gets attached to that image of the Naga. Thoughts about it create a new birth in the realm of Naga. When the mind focuses solely on the beings it has created through its actions, it remembers and chooses to be reborn in that realm. The mind will manifest in whatever way it has conditioned itself and will be reborn in that form. When the mind experiences joyful emotions or suffers through sorrow, anger, hatred, or curses, it is drawn into misfortune. If it conditions itself toward happiness, it will be reborn in the realm of bliss. All of this is the business of the mind, conditioning and engaging in mental formations, thus existing in that realm. This is called the realm of happiness and suffering, which is the essence of the teachings we have never heard or learned from anywhere. It is a simple Dhamma, and the teacher tries to communicate in straightforward language for understanding. The highest merit in spiritual practice comes from letting go, releasing external attachments, releasing identification with the body, releasing conditioned thoughts, and finally releasing even the knowing itself. When everything is released and nothing remains that indicates a self, this is our mind's true nature. The mind then returns to its pure elemental state, complete with inherent wisdom and luminosity, never to return to the cycle of becoming. Awakening isn't difficult, it's actually quite simple. Just grasp these essential teachings and listen frequently to what I've shared. Listen daily until these words echo continuously in your mind. Your mind will naturally awaken. No need to fabricate mindfulness or compare with conceptual thinking. This teaching is known as Dhammanupassana, contemplation of phenomena, pointing directly to the selfless nature of all phenomena, leading straight to the end of becoming. When the mind listens daily, it becomes familiar with this understanding. Your mind will awaken to see mental formations and naturally know how to let go, release, and rest in its own nature. The mind only needs the light of wisdom. It needs to hear truth about its own nature because it doesn't recognize its true nature. Instead, it relies on mental formations to learn, getting caught up in and attaching to whatever impacts it, giving significance to all experiences and mistaking them as self or mine. This is how the cycle of existence perpetuates, through fundamental ignorance. When we hear these teachings, we understand the origin and journey of how our mind endlessly cycles through existence. When this body dissolves, the mind drifts to find a new vessel, sometimes being born as animals, then dying again, the mind floating from that vessel to seek another, whether in gross or subtle form, wandering endlessly. This is the dwelling place of mind clouded by ignorance. As humans, rather than seeing the inherent dangers and suffering of this endless cycle and working to break free from delusion, we perpetuate attachment. From parents to teachers, the entire world conditions us from a young age, teaching us to think, to imagine, to strive, and to pursue material possessions in this world. All this striving is merely to fulfill desires and appease the restless thinking mind. Think about wanting to travel. We might think, today I'll invite my spouse to the beach. When they agree, saying, okay, let's pack our things, we're happy. But when they can't go because they're busy, saying, I'm not sure if I can make it, let me check later, and finally tell us they can't go because of work, we get upset and argue. This happens because we think of doing something for some desired outcome. When things go our way, we're happy. When they don't, we suffer. Emotions arise according to our thoughts. We constantly think of various scenarios. When things match our expectations, happiness arises. When they don't, suffering follows. These thoughts are mental formations. The mental images we create are mental formations. The emotions that arise based on whether our desires are fulfilled or not are mental formations. Everything mentioned here consists of mental formations, just ripples in the mind that continuously flow. It is being trapped in the realm of endless fabrication and attachment. Truth is this simple: just guide the mind to awaken without flowing into and attaching to thoughts, mental images, emotions, or even the act of knowing itself. See these phenomena, these natural occurrences, as they truly are selfless, ownerless. Does this sound have a self? If it has no self, why attach to it? Do the mental images we create have any real substance? Can we touch them? If not, why attach to them? Can you grasp happiness, suffering, neutrality, or tranquility? Do they have any inherent existence? If they have no self-nature, why attach to them? Notice how you're hearing my voice right now. See how the mind hears by itself. Do we need to tell it, "Mind, hear this sound now and understand this now"? Does it need instruction? It hears by itself, processes and understands by itself, doesn't it? So why interfere with this natural process? This nature has no self, so why force it to have one? On this earth, we could live peacefully. Comfort is already here. So why do we argue? Why do we seek reasons to be dissatisfied with each other? When you plan to eat at a restaurant and get to go, we experience happiness. Just know that now there's contentment and joy. Oh, this is nice, getting to eat here. Just know it like this. When you sit down and get what you want, just know those feelings. As you put food in your mouth and chew, just know it. You talk and laugh because you're happy to be eating there, feeling satisfied. Just know this happy state. But in another case, if your partner says, "I don't want to go today, let's just make something simple at home," and you feel upset when you hear this, just know that unpleasant emotion is there. Let it pass. Well, just cook and eat with your partner, that's all. Just experience whatever feelings arise and let them be. But most people, when things don't go their way, get angry, argue, and fight. Then they burn inside, can't sleep, mind thinking all night. Why not live together joyfully? We weren't born to suffer. We were born to understand reality as it is. Our mind is naturally aware, inherently pure and luminous. It's like a clear element. Everything else is just the mind's movement, rippling and forming mental formations. Imagine our mind like the clear space before us. Look from your phone to your eyes. Can you see that clear space between them? Or look from a wall to your eyes. Do you see that clear space? This is known through the natural awareness of sight. When we look, we immediately see what's impacted, the wall or the phone. But we know there's clear space between the phone and our eyes, between the wall and our eyes. We know this through mind itself. Our mind is one with this clarity. They're the same thing. The mind knows this clear space exists. I prefer not to call it emptiness. Let's call it clarity, because our mind is a clear element. It's incredibly clear, clearer than crystal. Darkness may pass through this clarity, but the clarity itself isn't darkness. If darkness represents the unwholesome, evil, or suffering, our mind in its pure clarity knows nothing of these. What is unwholesome? What is suffering? What is evil? Do you understand this? When light passes through that clarity, the clarity doesn't recognize what the light is. It simply remains clear and merges with everything that comes through it. You could call it a neutral element or the middle way. It can be called anything. Language is merely a convention. Do these conventions truly exist? This sound, since it has no inherent self, why cling to it or carry its weight? Where is the self in sound? Right now your mind is already aware of this sound, isn't it? And it already understands this sound, doesn't it? So, where is the self in all of this? Let the mind provide the answer. The mind dwells in conditioned thoughts, residing in mental formations for so long, stuck in the cycle of thought patterns, an endless spiral of thinking that continues without end. This happens simply because the mind flows and attaches to mental formations. Spiritual practice is about guiding the mind to inner awakening to see these rippling mental formations. When we awaken and see these rippling patterns, seeing their selfless nature, ignorance collapses. Does this awareness happening right now have any self? If not, why attach to it? Where is the self? Let the mind answer. Truth is simple. Mental formations are just this speaking sound, these mental images arising, these emotions appearing. Close your eyes and see how the mind attaches to these sounds. That's all there is to it. Emotions form into happiness or suffering, depending on whether our thoughts are fulfilled or not. When things match our thoughts, happiness arises. When they don't, suffering appears. These emotions of happiness and suffering then pull us along. Let's train our mind to awaken rather than letting it sleep through years and lifetimes. It's ignorance that has taught us to keep our eyes and ears closed. We've been taught this since childhood, by parents, teachers, everyone in this world, taught to think, to imagine, to seek material things in order to build a sense of self, to find happiness. When we're not happy, we suffer, then seek ways to create happiness again. When suffering returns, we try to manufacture happiness once more, getting caught up in the endless pursuit of happiness that matches our thoughts. We're constantly thinking just to experience what we call happiness. The ignorant mind pursues material possessions, wealth, and treasures, calling it the pursuit of fortune. Why does it do this? To seek happiness. It chases status and titles for the same reason, happiness. It yearns for others' praise, wanting to be seen as good and capable, all in the name of happiness. But when it doesn't get what it desires, suffering arises. In essence, every birth is driven by the craving for happiness. Stop letting your mind flow toward and cling to mental fabrications. Wake up. Your mind is the primordial essence. Thoughts, emotions, and feelings are just fabricated elements that the mind itself creates. And once the mind creates them, it clings to them. Isn't that foolish? Open your eyes and you will see clearly. The Buddha taught us to be wise, to cultivate understanding, and to awaken. He taught the mind to open its eyes and see all phenomena as non-self. The mind is the primordial essence. If it ceases to cling to mental fabrications, thoughts, emotions, and feelings, it will return to its original, pure, and liberated state, endowed with wisdom, never to return to the cycle of suffering caused by conditioned existence. It will no longer be trapped in the endless cycle of mental fabrications. Wake up, mind. Teach your mind regularly. What I share here focuses only on the essence, the cessation of becoming, guiding the mind to reverse its flow, awakening it so it no longer clings in ignorance. The mind is a pure, clear essence without form, without self, neither extinguished nor bright, neither virtuous nor sinful, untouched by concept of good, evil, merit, or demerit. the mind is never inherently connected to anything. It merely flows, attaches itself to fabrications, and then mistakenly believes in them, creating and dwelling within them. All emotions and states are without self-nature. They are natural phenomena that appear and dissolve. This is non-self, anatta. Understanding how ignorance operates helps guide the mind to awakening. When our minds fully awaken and see mental formations as empty of self, this is when Buddha nature emerges. We will experience profound liberation and know it ourselves. In truth, the Four Noble Truths are always present. There's no need to strive to understand them intellectually, as there's nothing to grasp. When one reaches a certain point of realizing the ultimate truth, it's as if everything explodes in an instant. In that moment, all attachments vanish completely. Practicing Dhamma strips you of everything. No possessions, no attachments, no doubts. That's all there is to it. Many people study Dhamma for decades, yet fail to realize the truth. Why? Because they don't truly understand. That's why I explain things directly, plainly, and concisely, using simple and accessible language. Listen to understand, and see clearly that all things are anatta, non-self. Take this sound, for example. Where is the self in it? When listening to these teachings, don't use your analytical mind. Don't think, just be aware. Be like an earthworm without a brain, simply present and receptive. Just feel and flow with the words being shared. The mind will work things out naturally when you simply remain open and attentive. Stay with the sound of these words, and understanding will arise spontaneously. Many people have listened to my recordings and in just a moment had profound realizations. Some cried after hearing just one tape. All doubts dissolve, nothing more needs to be done, because they clearly see there was never anything to become in the first place. Some have studied Dhamma for 40 or 50 years, spending time with revered teachers, often regarded as the most exceptional, practicing under their guidance for decades, yet they gain nothing. Some even try to buy the path to liberation with money, accumulating merit without understanding the nature of mind, not knowing how it works or functions. Yet when these same people hear what I'm explaining, in just a moment, tears flow and everything becomes clear. All their doubts dissolve completely. All knowledge converges in the mind effortlessly. Every question they ever had vanishes. When this happens, there's a profound sense of relief. So this is it. Why hasn't anyone explained it so clearly before? Why make it so complicated? Why create such confusion when actually there's nothing complex about it? It's just this. For anyone who wishes to realize this truth, take a moment to listen to these recordings. Don't use your analytical mind. Don't think. Just listen continuously. Keep listening and something miraculous will unfold. If you wish to know me, simply listen to this teaching. One who sees the truth sees me, because I am nothing other than this truth. These words flow from the mind, transmitted from one mind to another. Use your mind to listen, align with it, and understanding will arise naturally, as if a sudden clarity bursts forth. It won't take long. It's truly remarkable. Though this may sound like boasting, I invite you to experience it yourself. Understand that your mind is fundamentally aware, a natural element of knowing that functions constantly. Yet this nature has no owner. Observe carefully. Whenever something contacts the mind, awareness is instantaneous. You don't need to try to be aware. Just notice that awareness is already present, continuously. Simply observe without forcing attention. Listen to the sound now. See how you hear it naturally. No need to train mindfulness. You're already hearing, already understanding these words effortlessly. Here's a simple question. Where is the self in all this? Let your mind answer. Just observe without trying to observe. Observe naturally, know naturally. Simply glance with gentle awareness. Notice the voice speaking in your mind, whether it's speaking aloud or just arising as thought. Be aware whenever it happens naturally. No need to force it. Listen to these teachings often, and it will unfold by itself. Just one moment of awareness any time during the day is valuable. When awareness arises and you see that this speaking voice isn't you, that's what matters. This isn't about trying to see or forcing yourself to understand. It's about allowing awareness to arise naturally, and in that moment, understanding will come to completion. Do you see now that the mind is completely unborn, or do you still doubt, still in darkness, still hesitating? When someone is full from eating, do they doubt whether they're full? Do they need to ask anyone, am I full? Or haven't I eaten at all? You understand, right? It's not about sitting and thinking, imagining, or convincing yourself that you're eating. If you don't know what being full feels like, then eat, you'll know. When you're full, you'll understand exactly what it's like. A mind that merely closes its eyes and reads about eating might think it understands fullness. Oh, being full must feel like this. But how could it truly know? Put food in your mouth and you'll know for yourself. You don't need to rely on books or theories. Why open a book for that? Just sit at the table, take a bite, and then you'll discover, this is eating. Keep eating, and eventually the mind will recognize what being full truly is. The mind has been closed off for so long that when it starts to open its eyes, it's as though it's learning to see for the first time. When the eyes open, the mind understands, oh, this is what seeing is like. But before that, it only imagines and constructs ideas about what seeing might be. It's never encountered the reality. It has never truly awakened to the Dhamma. In studying these teachings, we must understand why the Buddha taught us that the five aggregates are not self, so we could see that nothing has ever been us at all. We must come to see that this body and this mind are what are called Rupa Dhamma, material phenomena, and Nama Dhamma, mental phenomena. The body is not us. The mental phenomena, which include thoughts, emotions, sensations, and awareness, such as this sound and its meaning, are also not us. These are merely ripples, movements. The Buddha clearly pointed out that we must not cling to these things because they are not us, nor are they ours. When the mind no longer clings to these things, it sees clearly, this knowing isn't me, this speaking isn't me, these emotions aren't me, they're just rippling patterns. Don't attach to these things because they're not us, not ours. What we truly are is the mind itself, the pure, clear element, untainted and beyond all attachment. There is truly nothing in it. It is utterly clear, like when we look and see everything as clear and transparent. That is the essence of space. Space exists within this clarity, or you could call it emptiness. This empty clarity contains the essence of space within it. Air, whether it is oxygen, carbon dioxide, or any other kind with a specific name, is a conditioned element. This conditioned element, air, moves and ripples, creating countless phenomena. It becomes wind, tornadoes, hurricanes, lightning, thunder, electric charges, explosions, tiny particles, and dust. These particles combine to form living beings, various shapes, and even entire universes. The infinite cosmos arises from this very process. But no matter what happens, all of these phenomena cannot affect the pure, empty clarity. This clarity, this emptiness, remains untouched and unaltered by any of it. all emotions, all thoughts, whether wholesome or unwholesome, whether mental images are positive or negative, whether emotions are pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, or peaceful, all of these are mental formations. This is the truth of suffering. Stay inwardly awake, because suffering should be understood. When the mind stops ignorantly clinging to mental formations, ignorance collapses. It's this simple. Nothing has ever truly had a self. Some people fear the disintegration of the body and feel the need to focus on this or that awareness. But what is there to know? The act of knowing is like moving air becoming thoughts and emotions. It's not the clear essence, understand? The acts of knowing, thinking, imagining, and forming emotions, all these are movements of mind, ripples in the clear essence. Our mind is this clear emptiness, and what ripples within this clear emptiness are mental formations. All conditioned states, both external and internal, are without self, even this very understanding. Some hear and understand, but even that understanding is a formation. Don't ignorantly cling to it. Listen to understand, but don't attach to a self that understands. What does understanding look like? Try to grasp it. Truth is simple, not difficult. Just stay inwardly awake, that's all. When thinking occurs, know it thinks by itself, that's it. Don't interfere, let it think. When imagining happens, know it imagines by itself. When happiness or suffering arises, just know it. Ah, it's happy, let it be. It's suffering, let it be. It's just its nature. Don't ignorantly think there's a self doing the knowing. No need to train mindfulness or try to be aware. Awareness is already present throughout life. Just know reality as it is. No need to try to be aware. It's naturally aware all the time. Notice carefully. We can glimpse this in a single moment, any time. When we become aware, it's complete. This isn't about thinking you understand. It must flash forth when understanding penetrates the mind so deeply that the mind accepts it, breaking free from mental formations. Remember this. It will feel light, clear, and liberating, and tears may flow from deep emotion. It will feel as if you've lost your sense of self entirely, with nothing left to identify as me. Everything collapses. You'll see clearly that the body is not you. You'll realize that thoughts, emotions, and sensations, all that you once understood as you, are not you in any way. The mind lets go and breaks free. You may cry as you see that, in truth, nothing has ever truly arisen in this world. There is nothing to hold on to, nothing to be. The clarity and lightness will be unmistakable. Keep this in mind. When this happens, it is the ultimate liberation, the purest state of mind. This is the end of suffering. Today I conclude this Dhamma explanation here. May everyone awaken and realize the ultimate truth instantly and clearly. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.